The Vinquibus is the new weapon type that has arrived with the OLD PEACE update, Uriel's signature weapon. The Vinquibus is special, and honestly, I'm hoping that DE continues to add more weapons like this. This new weapon is not the next best thing, but it is fun to play and holds up considerably well in missions. The gameplay is smooth, the animations are smooth, and you can chain some really satisfying combos. I have a couple of builds to show you today, and we'll be going over some synergies as well, so stick around towards the end of the video for that. Let's begin. Where to farm the Vinquibus? It's as per usual the Descendia game mode, or you can get it from Road in the Cathedral. I have not yet completed the quest. I have been so busy. I'm yet to complete the quest. I probably will do it after this video has gone live. Let's talk about the features. This weapon is comprised of a rifle and a melee, a bayonet to be exact. When you equip the Vinquibus, it will override your melee. When you're using the weapon, you can shoot as per normal with the rifle, and when you decide to melee with it, it will then just switch over. The new stance that comes with the weapon will interlink the movement sets as well. For example, some melee combos will shoot the rifle just like gunblades do. You'll be able to mod the rifle and the melee as per normal separately, and all extra slots and polarities that you place on either weapon will match, meaning you don't have to double up on the former. All XP is shared as it's the same weapon essentially. However, arcane adapters are not shared, and one thing to take note here, if you put an umbral former onto your melee weapon, it will do so on the primary, which I don't know why that's a thing, so I'd recommend that you don't do that and refrain from using umbral former on your Vinquibus. Okay, that covers the features. Let's talk about the passives. Each part has its own passive. The gun has the Vinquibus Precision. Headshots grant 250% melee damage for the next 2 melee attacks, stacking up to 16 times. For one of the builds that I showcased, this passive goes hand in hand. The bayonet has Vinquibus Ferocity. Melee kills give 100% rifle ammo efficiency for your next 4 shots, stacking up to 16 times. As you can see, they run parallel with each other, allowing you to mix and match as you play your missions. It's a very on-the-fly weapon, which is quite nice. As you perform these passives, you will see how much you've stacked up by the unique reticle when using the Vinquibus. The little bars will fill up as you stack them up, and you can also see which side you're on when you move between the melee and the rifle. It will then highlight the respective side. Now we move on to talking about the gun. We're going to talk about the rifle first, then we'll talk about the melee. Before I say anything, just listen. Let me bless thy ears. The rifle reload, or the end of the magazine, is pretty much like the M1 Garand. Only 8 bullets in a magazine, it's slow firing, very slow reload. However, the rifle does have very good crit stats with 40% base crit chance and a 3.2 times crit damage multiplier at base, dealing mainly puncture and slash. The base 20% status chance isn't ideal, but you can make it work with the setups I'm about to show. The projectile speed is pretty quick, which is nice, and this gun's damage does scale to respectable amounts. I have 3 setups that I would like to showcase to you today. This weapon is an MR14 weapon, so I will not be showing budget builds. Budget would just be no primed mods, because realistically you should have galvanized mods by now. The first setup is a standard corrosive heat setup. It can also be a pure heat setup if you put corrosive on another, companion or primer. It's up to you. Because of the unique trait requiring headshots, I did opt for deadhead, because if you can one-shot them in the process, why not? It's nothing fancy, it's just a multi-shot corrosive heat setup that does a decent amount of damage when you start to scale your stacks. Aptitude does lift this weapon's damage by a considerable amount, so I would recommend using it with a primer companion or a primer as a secondary. If you don't have prime shred, you can use vile acceleration instead. Another option is actually going pure toxin and going for primary blight with serration for base damage scaling, although you will take some time to build up those primary blight stacks. It's completely flexible depending on what arcanes you have or you decide to go for. The next setup is a gas security setup. This one is by far the best. With a companion primer, this thing does millions of damage when you hit your headshots, and because we will naturally aim for the heads, we use deadhead because I opted for gas. I did go for both 60/60 mods to help with a fairly low status chance, especially because we don't have multi-shot to help with that, so we kind of need as much status chance as we can with the Vinquibus. If you are someone that enjoys gas and likes weapons that are slow firing but hit hard, then the Vinquibus is a perfect addition to your list, especially if you are an acuity enjoyer. This setup, paired with the right frames, is a force to be reckoned with, and you can pair the melee with this build too to help it deal even more damage, which we'll go over in the melee section. Let's talk about the last build for today, and that is a Blast Crux setup. While yes, the melee's passive gives you ammo efficiency, I know, I did try a Blast Crux setup anyway to increase the status chance by a considerable amount. And it does work incredibly well. The ammo efficiency does become redundant for the most part, but it's still pretty good. The only thing about the setup is you do need Arcane Rage on your Warframe to scale base damage, because we don't have that in our build. Once the build scales, the blast damage does a lot of damage, and it's pretty good. It's not the best setup, but it works, and I'm just a massive fan of blast, so I thought, why not go for it and just show it? That pretty much covers the rifle part of this weapon. To be honest, it's not crazy. Like, it's not... I'm not going to tell you it's broken, but it's a solid rifle and it works. It's kind of like another version of the Kuva in a way, kind of. If you consider its gimmick of mixing a melee with a rifle, it's fun and unique, then it's definitely worth getting. I will say the rifle will benefit from Warframes that increase your reload speed and fire rate. It will make this gun feel a whole lot better in missions, so I would recommend that. I will say this is more of a single target weapon, so if you're using the gas setup, for example, I do recommend using something like the Sciatid or the Nautilus with Cordon to pull enemies in so that you can basically just destroy things. Now let's move on to the melee. The melee, like I said, acts and behaves the same way as any other melee. We have a new stance called Harrowing Spire. I will be 100% honest with you, it can feel a little bit clunky. I can't describe fully. Once you give it a go, you'll kind of understand what I'm saying, but overall it's still a decent stance and you can definitely benefit from certain arcanes with the stance. Harrowing Spire and how the bayonet feels is similar to what gunblades would feel, but with more melee swiping and jabbing versus actually shooting your gun. The forward attack combos are lunging jabbing motions, neutral attack are swiping motions, block attacks will launch yourself in the air and shoot your rifle before slamming. The rifle shot does a considerable amount of damage. The forward block attack combos mix lunges with slams. The heavy attack is by far my favorite with scaled attack speed and range. Slam your bayonet in a wide radius, lifting all enemies, making it the perfect fit for afflictions. Discipline's Merit makes it super easy for you to spam your heavy attack with this weapon. It is a two-handed melee, so it is slow and big, and has a massive 3-meter range. With primed reach, you can get 6 meters, which I'm a fan of. I like long reach melees. The stats are pretty much the exact same as the rifle. In fact, they are the same. With the same 40% crit chance, the same 3.2 crit damage multiplied, the same 20% status chance with slash and puncture. Like I explained in the combos, there's also the projectile part when you do a block attack. Again, stats are the exact same. I have 2 builds that I would like to show you, but it's not limited to them. The first is an Afflictions setup. Because of the heavy attack's nature, lifting enemies up, Afflictions is perfect. I opted for pure heat. You can go any damage over time status effects that you'd like. This is what the build would look like. If you don't have the prime mods, you just use the cheaper versions and you can replace primed fury with berserker fury. This whole setup does a considerable amount of damage, and when you're mixing in the rifle with the melee and so on, it just works. It allows you to stack up your melee's passive quite easily, especially when you take into account rifle's passive, giving you 250% melee damage per headshot. Afflictions is personally a go-to for this weapon, and it just works and synergizes so well with the rifle and your melee. The other build that I went for is a more utility support based build, a viral influence spreader. Look, you don't really need the bayonet for this per se. You could just do this with any influence build, but it does help with your gas security setup if you go for that, or any of your rifle setups actually. This is a support focused setup. You don't need it. You can use a primer or anything like that and you wouldn't have to worry. But if you're not someone that likes primers and you want to interlink something like that, then I think this is going to be a good support option. For some other suggestions, I would say exposure is pretty good. Duplicate may be a decent option if you keep it to yellow crits or just base crits the whole time. Personally, I think Afflictions is the go-to, or even Vortex. Actually, now that I think about it, Vortex might be pretty good at pulling enemies in with your heavy attack. And that pretty much covers the melee. Overall, the melee I feel does need some good attack speed to make it feel pretty good. But like I said, in missions, you're constantly interlinking and intertwining your rifle with your melee the whole time, so it's pretty smooth. You have to use it to understand what I mean, but it feels like you're gliding like a swan. Now we move on to Synergies, some good suggestions and what to use with this weapon. Honestly, Harrow benefits both melee and rifles. He is the perfect fit for this weapon or these weapons. I'm just going to say this weapon, but you know what I mean. His second ability, Penance, is absolutely perfect for that, because his fire rate bonus also affects his melee attack speed. His fourth ability will also increase the crit chance of your rifle, which is even better. And if you subsume Rifle Advance onto Harrow, it's perfect. It's just great. Harrow is by far meant for this weapon, in my opinion. Wisp with her haste mode would also be absolutely amazing with this weapon. Definitely very good for fire rate bonuses as well. Valkyr for her attack speed for the melee would also be a good option. And then we have Kullervo with Rifle Advance and Collective Curse. In fact, Kullervo is also a perfect fit for the Vinquibus, because Rifle Advance will give red crits for the melee bayonet, and Collective Curse would be perfect for the nature of the rifle, because the rifle is not very good at clearing groups, but it does hit hard. So Collective Curse will completely sort out that problem. And then if you're using the melee, Rifle Advance will just sort out that problem. You know, Kullervo is brilliant. Uriel himself, of course, is good with these runes and damage vulnerability and how his kit works. It's his signature weapon after all. And then lastly, we have Mirage. Mirage would also be a pretty good option to use with the Vinquibus because of the clones and things like that. It's a good fit. Other than that, you can use Arcanes to help your weapon do a bit more. Let's move on to the final thoughts. Again, like I said, it is very unique. It's a very cool gimmicky weapon, if that makes any sense. It's very smooth and satisfying to use. I will admit, I'm not going to be saying to you now that, oh, it's the next, game-breaking weapon and you must get it, it's meta or whatever. But it's something that you could get if you just really like the whole idea of it, then you would enjoy it. If you're not interested in it, then I would say don't. Just give this weapon a pass. Just move on to the next thing, get Gyre Prime or something like that. But this is what my first impressions of the Vinquibus is. Let me know in the comments below if you have tried the Vinquibus and if you found any crazy synergies with it. I'm sure that you guys have. It'd be quite interesting to see. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. If you can, please smash that like button. It really helps me out and it really helps with videos like this. Thank you so much. As always, a massive thank you to our channel members. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for your support. I will see you guys in the next video.